Shout out to Chris Wilson, came up with the idea. I love the idea of this segment. So what is on tap in week number 6? Connor Rogers, let's speed through a lot of games.
How will the Ravens offense perform versus their old friend, Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale? Barry?
Yeah, I think they'll struggle a little bit. You're still starting Lamar Jackson, but J.K. Dobbins, I have at running back 20. I'm a little bit nervous given the fact that Kenyon Drake was used last week. Jackson is always a vulture there. Kenyon Drake played 60% of the snaps last week. I think he's a touchdown-dependent RB2. Again, he comes at running back 20 for me.
Kind of like Devin Duvernay in this matchup. Only 2 Ravens pass catchers got more than 2 targets last week against Cincinnati. Mark Andrews with 10, Devin Duvernay with 7, putting up competent stat lines. Martindale, as is his thing, he blitzes more than anyone else in the league. The Giants blitz on 43% of defensive snaps. Lamar Jackson, bad against the blitz last year, carving it up this year. I think Duvernay could be the beneficiary.
Averaging 6 targets a game over the last 2 weeks. Rashad Bateman did not practice again today on Friday. He looks like he's likely out. 25% target share for Duvernay last week against the Bengals.
The Dolphins will start Skylar Thompson after he came in for Teddy Bridgewater last week. Obviously, that's a little concerning for Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, but how concerning in this offense?
I don't think it's concerning in the sense that you're still starting him. Like, for our purposes, like, is it concerning? Sure, maybe you don't use him in DFS or whatever, but Jalen Waddle has 100 yards or a touchdown in 3 out of 5 games, and, he's only been out-targeted 43-35 by Tyreek Hill. It seems like a pretty even split between those guys. They've had a whole week of Skylar Thompson under center getting all the first-team reps, and Tyreek Hill may not be 100%, right? I mean, it looks like he's going to play, but it's not 100%. He's been on the injury report, so Waddle may get there. Anyway, for our purposes, you're starting Jalen Waddle, who's my wide receiver 17 this week.
Yeah, I just think the talent level's too high. Jalen Waddle, he put up over 1,000 years last year in very suboptimal conditions with one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I just think he is above the certain talent threshold. We need to name that threshold after a player, but he's above it where no matter what the context is, you just have to start Jalen Waddle.
And it's a good matchup against the Minnesota Vikings.
Speaking of those Vikings, the Vikings offense, 2 sit and start players. Barry, Adam Thielen is your wide receiver 31 this week. Irv Smith is your tight end 13. Ooh, that's kind of fringe territory for both of them. How are you handling each one in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, again, Thielen's sort of a wide receiver 3. The problem with him is that he's a little bit touchdown dependent. The positives are 7 targets in 4 to 5 games so far this year, and it's a nice matchup with the Dolphins defense that gives up the 7th most fantasy points per game to opposing pass catchers. But again, Thielen has 3 games with three games with single-digit fantasy points. Like, he needs a touchdown to pay off. So it's a little bit of how lucky do you feel. Wide receiver 31 for me sort of depends on what you got.
Yep. Same thing can be said for Irv Smith, who I think is just in that big cluster of tight ends where every week it's going to be like 3 or 4 catches for 30 to 40 yards, and you just need the touchdown to make them really valuable.
Tight end roulette, a tradition like no other in fantasy. All right, last one. Can the Colts offense get back on track as Jonathan Taylor is expected to return?
Yeah, I mean, you're starting Jonathan Taylor. They're playing my Swagwars. You know what I mean? Like, Jay Croucher has hated these Jaguars all season long. Look, I think you're still starting. So I think you're lowering expectations for the Colts offense. Do I think they get back on track? No. But do I think, you're still starting Jonathan Taylor, of course. Are you still starting Michael Pittman? You are, who's had 8 targets or more in 3 out of the 4 games this year. They're not targeting him down the field, but he's still getting a ton of red zone usage. He's probably still the best bet to get a touchdown in this game through the passing attack. So I do like Michael Pittman as a top 20 play, but not a top 10 play in this game. And I'm back in on Christian Kirk on the other side of the ball. Again, really big game in week 2 against these Colts.
Jay, what about Alec Pierce in this one? He's been a little bit of a popular waiver wire pickup this week.
Yeah, and you can see why, but I just think that Pat Surtain last week just wrecked that whole game and all the takeaways because he just took Michael Pittman out, and then Matt Ryan was just looking at Alec Pierce, and then Surtain went to Alec Pierce, and then it all got messed up again. So I wouldn't write off Michael Pittman. You take that game out, and then I think, his stats have been fine. So I agree with Matthew's
Alec Pierce should have been a popular pickup. I think he's a talented rookie, but I'm not starting him this week. I want to see it another week, to your point. I think game script was a little bit weird. I'm at wide receiver 44 in this one. I mean, he played his highest percentage of offensive snaps last week, and it was still under 60%. So I want to see it a little bit more. Again, this is not an easy matchup against my and only my Swagwars. So there you go. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.